Welcome to this week's Brittany's Bites, where we are sticking with a recipe for soup season. Even though soup season is basically all year round for me, I love soup so much. And this is another one that I like to put in heavy rotation. It is lasagna soup. It's basically everything you love about a lasagna put into a soup, but actually minus the cheese, unless you want to add it in or use it as a garnish. So it actually lightens it up a little bit as well. So that's a good thing. You can probably hear I already have things started. And the first two steps, you can kind of flip-flop if you want, but I'll tell you what I did. So you can either use a pound of ground beef, you could use turkey or even chicken if you'd like, or fake meat, or you could do half and half. You could do half ground beef and half sausage. And so that's what I'm doing here. Sausage and meat, and I've already got it going with a little olive oil because this has basically no fat in it. Now, if you were using real ground beef and it wasn't very lean, you'd want to do this first, drain the oil or the extra grease rather, and then put it back in the pan and get started. Or you could start with the next step that I'm going to do, which is to put in an onion. So I just have a yellow onion here. You could use a white onion, even a red onion, and it was fairly large. You can see this is just one onion that I've chopped up, and then I also have 3 cloves of garlic that are going to go in a minute. So I'm going to add these onions, get it all mixing together to get those flavors started, and then we'll move on to some of the next steps. While the onions are cooking up, I'm actually going to add a little salt and pepper and mix that in as well. We're going to layer the flavors and the seasoning as we go. So some pepper as well. Stir that up, and I'm going to keep it going for another couple of minutes. The onions are cooked down a bit now, so we're gonna add in that garlic. You can use anywhere from 2 to 4 cloves, minced up or crushed up, sliced up if you'd like, however much garlic you like or don't like. So I'm gonna put this here and just stir it up for another minute or 2 before we move on to our next step. I'm gonna give this one last little stir, and then we're gonna add in our next few ingredients. We're getting there. Again, we're building flavors in layers. Okay. So next thing we're gonna add in some tomato paste. I would say about 2 tablespoons or so, but I'm just gonna kind of eyeball it because that's what's easiest to do in this. So that's probably 1, and another 2. That's good. We really want to develop some deep tomato flavor before we add in our other tomatoes. So I'm gonna stir this up, and also at the same time, so I'm gonna pause for a second, I'm gonna add in some spices. And I have Italian seasoning here. You could use oregano. You could do oregano and basil, whatever you'd like. So I'm gonna do 2 tablespoons of this. Sprinkle it all in. And at the same time, I'm gonna add in one of my favorite spices, but one you do not have to do, some red pepper flakes. I'm just gonna sprinkle some in and eyeball it. It doesn't like to come out of this container very well, and I want a lot. All right, so that is good. I'm gonna stir this up and let this go for a minute or 2. It is starting to smell fantastic in here. After all, we have the garlic and the onions cooking with the spices and the tomato paste. It's all coming together and just smelling great, really inviting. People are gonna wanna come into the kitchen to see what you're making if you have this on the stove. So let's move on to the next step. We're gonna add some liquid finally. Now what you can do is do 2 14 to 15 ounce cans of tomatoes of some sort. You can do diced tomatoes and a tomato sauce. You can do petite diced tomatoes. You can do 2 tomato sauces, whatever you'd like, just to get that tomato flavor. But what do you use when you're making a lasagna often? A jar of tomato sauce of some sort. Use whatever kind you like. I'm using a spicy marinara and arrabbiata because, you know, I love spice, but again, you do not have to use this. But a jar that is 24 ounces, that's about what you want to use in this case. And we're going to be adding some broth as well. I'm going to start out though with the tomato sauce and just pour it all in. And you don't have to do this, but I don't like to waste any of the sauce in there, so I'm just gonna put a little water in and get a little bit more out. We're gonna put broth in after all. So I'm gonna make sure I'm using all of it and not wasting a single bit, especially because it's not cheap these days, right? Okay, I'm gonna stir this up a little bit and let it cook for just a minute and then add some broth. Time now for the next step where we're gonna add that broth. Now, probably what you're gonna wanna add is beef broth. That's probably the most commonly used broth, but if you have chicken broth on hand, use that. Yes, I always have veggie broth on hand, so that's what I'm gonna use. Now, I go back and forth between using all of these. These are each 32 ounces, so each one is about 4 cups. So you can use 6 to 8 cups. If you want a really brothy soup, I would go ahead and use both, but you can kind of eyeball it and always add more if you'd like. So I'm gonna start off with maybe 1.5. We'll see how it goes. I'm gonna keep it at that for now, because what you're gonna do is I'm gonna stir this up first of all, make sure that it's all combined, and then we're gonna bring this to a boil, and then we're gonna add kind of the key ingredient, because we want to add the lasagna noodles to make it lasagna soup. And what we're gonna do, of course, normally, well, obviously they have the sort of no boil lasagna noodles now, but often you're gonna boil the lasagna noodles before you layer them. In this case, we're boiling them in the soup. So that's why you wanna make sure you have enough broth to do that. So I'm gonna bring this to a boil and then start adding those lasagna noodles. I'm gonna crank up the heat. One more thing I almost forgot to add was a bay leaf. We wanna get that going now that we have all of the broth in. So I'm gonna pull one out, kind of a funky one, and put it right in there and stir it up. And again, we are waiting for this to come to a boil. In the meantime, I might go ahead and start breaking up some of my lasagna noodles. So we'll come back and do more of that. Okay, the soup is now boiling finally, and I've already broken up the lasagna noodles into bite-sized pieces. Obviously, that's what you want in a soup. You can't eat a whole noodle when you're trying to scoop it up in a soup. So I have about 8 noodles, I think. You can use 8 to 10. I wanted to start with this and see how full the soup becomes of noodles. I don't want it to be all noodles, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna pour these in, and then basically you're almost done. You essentially just want to cook the soup until these noodles are tender, al dente, however soft you want them, and then you're done and ready to serve it. Our soup is basically finished and ready to be served up. It smells fantastic, it looks great. The noodles are pretty al dente. I like them to still have a little bit of bite, but again, cook them as long as you would like them, but I'm gonna show you how I would serve it up. So I'm just gonna take a big scoop here, make sure I can get a little bit of everything in there, including those lasagna noodles. Oh yeah. Get a few more here. Perfect. And then you can serve it just like this, or you could add some sprinkled mozzarella cheese. That would be fantastic. I have a little ricotta here that I'm gonna take a little scoop of and put right in the middle. And then I have a little fresh basil as well. So I'm gonna take just a couple of basil leaves and put it right in there. And there we have our lasagna soup ready to be served. Smells fantastic. Can't wait to taste it. I hope you give it a try as well. If you would like to see the recipe all written out for you, just go right now to WBIR.com.